Bienvenidos a Oye Cinema Club. Hello, guys. My name is Don Dino, and I'll be hosting tonight's episode of Oye Cinema Club. But with me, I have my friends. We have a couple different people. Look at all these pretty people. Anyway, let's just jump right into it, guys. I chose The Wolf of Wall Street because we're still doing genre. I mean, you can call it a genre. It's just movies with a lot of bad words in them, a lot of cussing. And so I was looking up, and Wolf of Wall Street is like top three most cuss words in all of cinema, something like that. And I had never seen it, so I picked it. Before I give you guys my first impressions, let's throw it out to the crew. Hey, Steve, what's your first impressions of The Wolf of Wall Street?
So first of all, I am shocked that this is the first time you've seen it, because this is probably like my fifth time or sixth time seeing this movie.
Oh, wow.
But I guess now I understand it more because
Hmm.
when I originally saw it, I wasn't really into like stocks and stuff like that. So I didn't quite fully get the whole gist of the movie. And also, another thing is that well, I haven't met him in person, but I have been exposed to the actual real Jordan Belfort. And I think this movie in particular, like, gave him, because it's just Hollywood and also because of the actor that played him, Leo DiCaprio, it put him, I guess, in like a better light. But this guy was a huge. I mean, that was the purpose of the movie too, to show that like he became kind of a scumbag, like a lot of Wall Street people. But like, yeah, the dude does have. It's like a very intense type of personality. And so first impression, watching it all this time is like, yeah, it's a movie that like just like The Big Short. There's forget all the older movies that are all about Wall Street and all that. But it's those type of movies that is like
Wall
it's
Street. The
fun.
movie's
It's
called Wall Street. The
Wall
movie.
Street. No, but there was like another one. It said no, it's not Raging Bull. That's a different one.
Boiler
uh,
Room.
Boiler
Anyway, go.
Room. That's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. But all those movies, if you're not a person that you are not paying attention to like economy stuff and like the stock market and Wall Street and like all this stuff that have to do with the economy, it's kind of a movie that like at least this movie is more fun because it has like other elements to it, like the whole like taking quaaludes and all that. But but once you're like actually in it and you like really get all the little, you understand what a pink sheet is. For example, before I didn't know what a pink sheet even was, and even that scene that he had in the beginning with Matthew McConaughey. Like I remember watching that scene before and not really understanding it that much because again I saw it very like when it came out, and now with all this experience that I have, it's just like it's much more enjoyable to watch, just because of the different elements and everything to it. Because before, as a young whatever kid, you just think of all the horny stuff that's in the movie, but like. But later, with everything, like you start getting more things, and it's a very interesting watch, in my opinion. So that's my first impression.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Marina, can we get your first impression?
So first impressions. First of all, I was super excited because it's the first movie that I've been able to discuss with you guys that I've actually seen before. All the other movies I've been like, I've never seen this, but I have also watched it probably like 5, 6 times. Watching it this time, going into it like to critique it or to like see how I feel about it was an interesting perspective because usually I'm super into like rags to riches stories, no matter what it's about. Um, but this time like actually like observing was very interesting. I think I just noticed a couple of things that I didn't notice before because the movie I feel like is set up to just like be this intense, like he's gonna be powerful slash someone's gonna investigate him type of feel, but to actually like sit back and like really look at everything, like I just really my first impression was like, wow, these people really acted really well along the way, um, to getting to these powerful douchebag types. So yeah, it was definitely good to rewatch in a different eye. I really love this movie.
Oh wow. All right. Jason, first impression? Or
Indeed. So my first impression, I've seen this movie I think two or three times before. I really like it. It's honestly one of Martin Scorsese's best, even though it's a more recent film of his. This movie has a lot to like about it, and I was exposed to Jordan Belfort before I ever seen this movie, before this movie was ever in the works. I forget how I got exposed to him. I was kind of a YouTube rat, like in the early days of YouTube, because I was just so like impressed with how much stuff was on there. And I remember listening to like lectures with Jordan Belfort and him talk about stuff, and so I kind of followed his story like well before all this stuff was going down. And I was in the stocks, I think, before I saw this movie, so I was able to sort of pick up on the lingo and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the first time I saw this with the whole stock scam, because I had got scammed on penny stocks before this movie came out. And I was like, that's what happened. But more of an internety way than opposed to somebody like cold calling me. Um, so yeah, I was one of the people that got on penny stocks. Um, I will say this time it was something interesting about Margot Robbie's performance. It didn't strike me the same way the first time, because the first time you see this movie, this is Margot Robbie's first film, so it's kind of like her performance the first time you watch is like a revelation. Like you're watching, like, oh, she's going to be a movie star. Like she is on top of it. This time watching it, it just felt like Margot Robbie, which is like she already felt pretty seasoned in this film, which is a testament to her acting. It makes the movie lose a little bit of its shininess for me, because it's like, well, you missed that like moment. Also, Margot Robbie, since performing in this film, she's kind of given this performance again and again and again. She's given this performance many times. Not to say it's bad, but this is in her wheelhouse. She has done this thing, and this is why she became a star, is because she's so good at this thing. But she's played this sort of Brooklyn chick. I mean, even like in a superhero movie, she's played this same sort of Brooklyn chick, which is great. No shade to Margot, but it is what it is. So, yeah, this is an interesting movie. Lots of great curse words in it. Lots of great performances. This is one of the ones where what's his name? Matthew McConaughey kind of has his streak of like incredible performances. Um, I would say his coming out party. This was a part of that sort of like that era. Yeah, man, I love this movie. There's a lot to love about it. There's a lot to talk about it.
all right.
That's my first impression.
Damn. Okay. Well, I was gonna say we'll throw it back to that, but it's like, isn't then just DiCaprio doing the same thing? Isn't this what we've seen DiCaprio do for a while, and like all those other kind of movies and Catch Me If You Can and all that and Scorsese? But we'll get that later.
Thanks for the
But in terms,
equality. Thanks for the equality coming after my.
yeah,
No, no kidding.
yeah. Way to point out the one chick who's doing something in cinema that can go in different ways. No. I don't know. I don't know if I've been in a funk. I feel like maybe because we haven't had JP. I don't know if I'm kind of morphed into a weird JP Steve kind of thing where the movie felt long to me. It was just this movie again. I love the actors and actresses and the director Scorsese, all that, and I think I know why. But 3 hours of this, I mean, I understand. To me, this is basically Goodfellas, but on speed or crank or whatever other drug like cocaine, just because it's so much freaking faster. And I imagine you're trying to do the excess and they're getting unhinged and going woo 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 woo. But I feel like it could have been equally and maybe even more so if it was a little shorter. Because it's 3 hours. I mean, I was getting kind of bored there when I was like, all right, how many times are you gonna snort coke out of titties and then drop 20 quaaludes? Like, I mean, even Scarface mixed it up a little bit between snorting cocaine and doing quaaludes. So yeah, that was my like part of my thing. I also when this movie it took me so long to watch this movie because I feel like I read an article from what is Belfort, from his daughter or whatever, talking about how he like ruined her life and all that because was making her using her name to take out credit cards when she was still like 14 or 15, and she of course because it was her dad was like he's a con man, so she was basically talking about how he, kind of conned her into opening up all these credit cards, and so like her credit, everything was just ruined before she even was old enough to have a credit card herself. And so I always just was kind of like, I don't want to watch this movie. I don't want to. So I think I just have such a kind of ingrained in my mind that this person is a bad person that yeah, I don't want to root for him. Kind of like Catch Me If You Can, all those kind of con-y kind of movies, they seem a little more redeemable. This guy didn't learn anything at the end of the movie. He didn't have this arc where like he never learns, I guess, other than finding a new con. That's I feel like what he learns. Like but anyway, so that's kind of my first impression. Acting, I think, was great. I wasn't like, I thought like, okay, there's gonna be a lot of cussing. Was not expecting that much nudity. I don't know. I just never. I always heard that it was the language and not the nudity that was big with this movie. So yeah, and then I did hear that apparently, what's her face? Uh, uh, mm, Harley Quinn. I can not think of her name.
Margot.
Marlo, yeah, Margot Robbie, I guess, because it was her first film, and her family was gonna see it. She told them because it was Hollywood and it's Scorsese that they had a body double, and then they were just like CGI putting her face on on a naked person. So I don't know how many years it went before her actually telling them like, no, yeah, that's my body. Anyway, so that's first impressions. I want to hear why you said you love this movie. Can we go into that, Marina, a little bit more? Since I've have such a little bit of a strong reaction to it, and not because it's a bad movie, just because of the character and all that I just it's
Yeah,
hard for me to get it past.
you brought up some good points, like, once you get into the personal life, and that's another thing that I probably did differently this time. I think I watched it so many times when it first came out, I had no idea about this guy, and so for me, it was just, like, just seeing him just work his way in the system and becoming rich, and so just, like, that concept, but yeah, I mean, like, I guess I'm kinda taking the real person out and just loving the movie, more so, because yeah, like, with these movies where they tell like a true story, I feel like they always glamorize it a bit and they don't tell the whole truth about who a person is. So just if I take that movie itself, I think he was a pretty rock star guy. And it's just like interesting to watch. Obviously, there wasn't a scene in there when he ruined his daughter's credit. So I love the movie. But yeah, if you start looking at articles and I did get a little frustrated about how much time he got in comparison to people who've done way less or in prison for a lot longer. Yeah, I could go down that route too, but I'm entertained enough as I do watch it to where I can separate it and be like, this was a really cool, like it grabbed my attention. obviously the first couple times a lot more. When it was hyped up, like everybody was like, "Wow, this man really did it." But like if you break down anybody, there's a Netflix show about the girl who was like conning everybody um in New
Yeah, the
York.
one that said she was
Anna,
royalty or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
and
becoming Anna or something.
yeah, becoming Anna. It's so entertaining, but like, what a
Mm.
douchebag! Like when you really, really think about it. But I watched that show in a day. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like the story itself, the way they tell it, if it's told well, and you put some great actors in there, it was it grabbed you. And the way my like attention disorder is, like having all those characters and everything happening all at once, it was made perfectly for me to like find out about this story the Hollywood way.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I
All
would
right.
say, just to add to her thing, what I think this movie did well is that pretty much at least the main characters, because I cannot say that about all the secondary ones, but like the main characters, they were all interesting. They
Yeah.
all had like very almost groundlings like personalities. So they had like
Yeah.
big personalities, and it fills the movie. Like for example, one character that I can think, but he's a very secondary character, was Warhol
Mm.
when they were doing the IPO. Like
Hmm.
his character, I thought was like they could have done better for the actor that played him or whatever, or they just downplayed it too much. But everybody else, like they were like over the top, like freaking throwing little people across the room and doing all kinds of stuff.
Jonah Hill, I feel like that's his best role I've ever seen. Like talk if anybody was different and not being the same as what they always are,
Yeah.
like his character was just like, whoa, like every turn, like cousin, married to his cousin, let's do crack. Like he was just so intense. The teeth, the I
So
and I
for
I bet you the
okay,
cousin bit was improvised. I bet you. Because
uh
when I
I I don't know, but his character they changed his character's name. So interesting that we are talking about
Here you go with the facts. No I'm kidding. No.
well, because I looked into it a little bit, I was like, man, this guy like married his cousin, first cousin of that. Like he went full Rudy Giuliani, where Giuliani actually pulled out from that. But no, so I guess they changed his name and kind of mixed up his character with someone else because the guy that the Belafont, I want to say Belafont, but it's not
Belfort.
Belfort. Yeah, Belfort's partner is a different name, different guy, and I guess he even tried to sued the Scorsese or the studio or was trying to, and they weren't even using his name when the movie was being made. So
yeah,
that's
he sued
interesting.
for he sued for $25 million. I literally just looked it up.
Oh
And
man.
nothing,
Danny,
right? They changed his name. They it's like, are you gonna admit that you're that guy then?
did he do time too, or did
Yes.
what?
Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. So yes. So it is a movie. Not everything is exactly the same. The since we're kind of in characters, and that is probably the strongest thing this movie has is just the array of characters and how everyone. I mean, it's
There's
like
a bunch of them.
open
Even even
buffet.
even the
It's
even the
open.
FBI agent,
Yeah.
like
Well,
his
it's
character was fleshed out pretty well.
open buffet on chewing everything in sight for the actors. Like chew every part of scenery that you can. I mean, from McConaughey. Like, do you really need that character? I'm sure we could have done. Like, that's my thing. Like, I love McConaughey. I love what his everything. But then I'm like, we never see him again. There's so many people that come in and then like, I'm like, wait, what? Do we need this? But yeah,
Because you
does
know what it
anyone?
is? It's such a character movie and such a character study. Like, really, the scenery and everything is the characters in this film.
Yeah,
Like, they paint, they are like the brushes of this
yeah,
film that Scorsese's using. And there are so many actors in this movie. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. Like obviously every movie has a lot of actors, but this movie has like triple the amount of actors and everyone gives a great performance. I think because they're like, this is a Scorsese film. I gotta go all out.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So, still talking about characters. Do you guys have a favorite character? Since we were kind of
Hmm
talking Jonah Hill and stuff like that. All right, Jason.
I'm
What
gonna
you got?
tell you, I have a couple only because they sort of work as a unit. I really like Ethan Serpy. He's the big guy, the Toby.
Yes. Yeah.
I really like him because this is the best. I've seen him in tons of stuff. I've seen him like in ABC family shows from like TGIF back in the day, like Boy Meets World. Like I've seen this dude forever, but this is the first time I had ever seen him in a movie. Like, whoa, this dude's really good. Like he really brought it. And then like a guy I don't think I had ever seen in a movie before, the Asian dude who played Chester, Kenneth Chow.
Yeah.
He was fantastic as well. He was
He's on
so good.
911. He's on
Oh,
911. He's just a
okay,
lot
yeah.
he's just a lot thinner. But I was like, I didn't realize he was in this movie. But yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, he's a
Isn't he
lot
in?
thinner now.
Isn't he in Marvel stuff also? The Asian
Maybe,
guy.
possibly. I don't know. But then, like another guy who's in that world with them is Jon Bernthal. You know,
Yep.
the Punisher. Like
Yep.
he's fantastic as well. And it's like these guys. I mean, he was also in the next Scorsese movie, The Irishman. I think, right? Or maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. He might have been in that too. But I mean, he's kind of like the perfect actor for a Scorsese film because he sort of has like the De Niro New York thing working for him. But
Yeah.
all three of those guys, like because they're all on the same team, I just thought they were fantastic, and their acting just really sort of uplifts the thing, and they sort of uplift DiCaprio. DiCaprio's going to be DiCaprio. He's a leading man, so it's not like he gets the most exciting job. He just carries the film, but or maybe not the most flashiest job. He just is the guy who carries the weight of the film, which is hard. But like all the charactery stuff comes from those guys, and I love them. I think they're fantastic. And also, I mean, like I said, Margot Robbie's fantastic in this film. Like, don't let me like shade her because I said she's done this thing a bunch of other
You,
times,
you already
but it's
did.
still
So.
amazing. Hey, I'm not shading her. She has done this role a bunch, but she is amazing in it.
But like you said, there was a surprise element too.
Yeah.
Like that's what kind of was just like, ooh, like you even like me, I'm a straight woman. It was just like, ooh, who's this lady? Like she really did grab your attention. And when you do rewatch years later, it's no longer like this surprise. The surprise is gone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
for a lot of layers. But in the same sense, I do feel like I appreciated some of those side actors a lot more this time because when you're first watching it, you're just so zoned in. Is he gonna get caught? Is he gonna like what's gonna happen? But this time you're like, okay, we know he's gonna get caught. So I was able to watch everything else a little bit more, like
Yeah.
yeah, and appreciate it.
Yeah, I
The
would say.
fact. Yeah, go for it. No, you go.
Oh, so yeah, I would say like yeah, in the very beginning, like one of the characters for sure that grabs your attention from the moment you watch it is Margot Robbie. There's no question about that. But apart, like everybody does such a like, especially the main cast, like everybody does such a great performance. But at the end of the day, if I have to go like who's like my favorite one, who like killed it in acting, I have to go with Leo, because like the expressions that he did, there was bro, there was even this scene that I feel like when I watched it this time, I was like, I don't know what was the point of that, but that was awesome. The scene that he's like dancing, like
Oh,
wobbling,
yeah.
I was like, what? And then
Yeah.
like for no reason, like just like by himself and doing all that. I still don't know why, but I love that scene. And
Great physical actor, right? Also the
Oh
Lamborghini
man.
scene.
I was gonna say.
the scene that he's gonna step down, and then he goes like, "I'm not leaving," and whatever. He puts like that face, like, and like hits his head with the mic and everything, like all that. It's like incredible performances.
He's not
Like,
afraid to look silly at all.
no,
No.
no.
I can appreciate that from like his level too, because like
Hmm.
I feel like you get to a point as an actor, if you're like on his level, you do start to take some of those like exact same roles that don't have a lot of effort. You're just playing a white
Yeah.
man. And I feel like he gets silly still. And he probably doesn't even have to. He probably could have just been like this super serious corporate posh, a little bit of smuck, but he really was just like he really got into it.
Yeah.
He's a good actor.
He also made, because again, I'm comparing the real guy with the fake guy. So he made Jordan Belfort likable. Because if you
Yeah.
Yep.
actually just watch Jordan Belfort, he's
Not
not really
likable.
that. He's not likable. He's not likable.
I will say though, when the movie first came out, like so the movie came out in 2013, so I was 22. I briefly had a corporate job from like 19 to 21, but I was out of it too, and I think it was another appreciation. Like you forget about like the that guy. Like cuz that guy can be annoying, like especially as a woman in an office. Like, there was so when you really think about it, there was so much, like, sexist stuff going on in that office, so, like, while I'm entertained on my couch, like, if I was working there, I might not have been one of the girls who just was like, "Yeah, it's okay, he's cutting the checks." I probably would've sued him, for sexual harassment, but, um, watching it again after being, like, burnt out from being in corporate again, like, the last 2 years, there was a couple things where I was just like, "Ugh," like,
Mm.
triggered, like, that's kind of, like, annoying, like, the scene where they're in the, office just talking about hiring midgets, right? And I'm just like, "This is so true, doing absolutely nothing while we're out there working hard and just sitting here acting like it's a serious meeting." Like, I was just like,
Yeah.
"Ah."
So this is a great
With
point. Now, this movie takes place in like the 80s, but it was made 10 years ago. And a lot has changed in 10 years socially and like with office, like the way office politics run and whatnot now. Do you think this movie is just like, we're just going to really deep dive into what like that corporate work office structure was like in the 80s? Or do you think maybe because the movie is 10 years now, maybe some of it's even a little bit dated, like the ideas that they're putting out there? What do you guys think about that?
I don't know
I
what
don't
you
think
would
so.
think. What's the data part? Sorry, can you
Well,
I guess
like for
rephrase
instance,
that? Because
so we talk about like how they like how he spoke to women in the office and like the whole
right.
thing with the little people. And do you think those ideas, even though like they're trying to like capsulate the 80s, do you think that that would fly in a movie today?
So yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Based on that particular question, I think if the movie were to be made today, they would definitely scrap a lot of things. Like they would have
Mm.
made a lot of changes. But because it was made in 20, well, at least it was released in 2013. It was made before. Uh, I think the movie encapsulates that like pretty well for what it is. Uh, but yeah, just like Dino, like I do believe, yeah, this movie could have been shorter for sure, but like still, it is encapsulating something like this era, this time, this
And I
thing.
think to both points too, like I think it gets away from with length, and I think it gets away with like the conduct because it's almost like a biopic. And I
Yeah.
think like you're telling a story kind of thing. And I feel like people kind of turn a blind eye, myself included. Like
Hmm.
I get really offended over a lot of stuff, and I just said I love this movie. So I think you get away with it when you find out like this is someone's story and it's their story to being rich. Like unfortunately, I feel like money talks and people just want to see like, oh wow, how did he do it?
Yeah,
Maybe some things would be cut, but I think they get away with a lot since it's based on a true
Yeah.
story.
because
And
we
I
want as
think
much truth as possible.
let me
Yes.
piggyback on what Marina just said, and I think that's one of the reasons why this movie still, and I think as time goes by, even if some people are turned off by it, it's still going to be a relevant movie because
Mhm.
there's still that desire amongst all of us that is like, I want to be filthy rich or whatever. So like they want to kind of, even if they don't have it, they want to experience it. Because even that's
Yeah,
Right.
part of like phone coupons. Look at this, whatever. Like people want to have that type of money that they can just throw away, you
sure.
know?
I'm gonna piggyback on Steve and Marina. And yeah, I've going back to your question, Jason. I think because it's based on the book. I didn't read the book or anything, so I don't know. Like, is the little people thing in there? Like, I remember hearing this is where there's an issue, right? Because it is biopic with some stuff, whatever. But there was a huge issue when the Freddie Mercury movie was coming out, right? That how there was the recasting and all that, and part of the issue is they were kind of whitewashing the like all the sex and drugs and stuff like that from the movie because there are stories that
Right.
supposedly Freddie Mercury,
Mercury.
not Prince, yeah, Freddie Mercury and all that, they would have little people at their like parties with like trays on their head and lines on coke, and the little people would walk around and people would just snort coke off the trays. And all that, of course, wasn't added in the drug and sex party scenes in that movie. So I think if it was Scorsese still doing the movie now, then yeah, it would be fairly similar. I think the what would change is I doubt Margot Robbie now would be like, yeah, I'm gonna just show my you know my birthday suit. Oh, Milli Vanilli. But
Yeah.
huh?
I said, but it wasn't her. I'm kidding.
It wasn't her. It was CGI.
So
But
that the
yeah,
Wait, was it really not her?
no, it was her. It was her. She just, I
Oh,
guess, she was just kind of telling her family that it wasn't her. It wasn't her. That it was all,
oh, okay.
you know. What were you gonna say, Steve? You were gonna jump
oh,
in.
no, I was gonna say the part like the way before that you said the little people part. So
Mhm.
supposedly in an interview in 2014 that they did to Jordan, they were asking him like what was fact and fiction about the movie, and he was saying that supposedly when that happened, he was out of the firm and he doesn't condone that. That's what
Hmm.
he said.
Well, I mean,
Just
all
shifted the
right.
blame.
And Margot Robbie wasn't naked. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, so because we can believe him, right? Like he's a believable
Very
source.
believable guy.
So
I know.
okay, so I would have liked to see more of the FBI. I mean, what's his face? He's huge, right? I mean, Friday Night Lights. You have Early
Yeah.
Edition.
What's his
Kyle,
name?
Kyle.
Chandler.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that dynamic a little bit more because we've also had those movies. So it's like you have such great actors and they barely have any screen time, or you just don't have enough time to get to see them. Um, so that's one character that I would have liked a little more exploring, especially, you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
just
you want
gonna
more exploration in a movie that you thought was a tad too long, though.
Yeah, the
well, because it was very repetitive with the drug. The drug is, it was just like, okay, I've seen tits, I've seen drugs. I've seen the shady stock deals. Let me see the other part of their worlds, right? Like the first wife, I, like way too many scenes with the worst first wife. If she didn't bring anything to it other than him giving him the idea to do the penny stock, but do it to the rich people that had more money. Like that. That was for me. That was her own
Did she
purpose
really
in the
find
whole
the
film.
article? I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Steve, looked like you were about to say something.
yeah, I know.
yeah, the you remember the scene that they're going to Switzerland from I think Monaco or
Yeah,
Italy,
yeah,
wherever
yeah.
they were at, and they encounter a storm. Apparently, that was real. That's
Hmm.
Mm.
completely real.
Did the helicopter crash that they or plane crash? Like, is that real? Because that's what he said was his come to Jesus moment in the movie. That the
Yeah.
plane that he saw crash, and then that's when he got clean, I guess.
Mm.
Well, I don't know about that part because he didn't specify that particular part, but at least
Yeah.
the whole like he told the captain to like let's go, and the captain was like, "Yo, there's a storm," and he still said go, and yeah, and that happened.
So there is something to be said. You guys have mentioned a couple times the the idea that there's so much like reference and maybe even too much reference. You guys feel, at least Dino felt this way, that to the sex and the drugs and the whatever. I remember seeing Scorsese in a like a retrospective where he was talking about another director's career, and the other director. Oh no, it was him and Joe Pesci in an interview. That's what it was. They were talking about the making of Goodfellas, and he said when he was in the very early production stages of Goodfellas, they were looking at dailies, and they were talking to one of the heads of the studio, and he was like, "I'll tell you what you do. If you ever feel like there might be a dull point in your movie, always film extra scenes of sex, drugs, or violence. Because if you can insert a scene of sex, drugs, and violence, you will never lose your audience." And he says, like, a light went off in his head. So when he was shooting Goodfellas, he would shoot these extra scenes of just random sex, drugs, and violence that he could just kind of like improvise with his characters or whatever. And he goes, if there's ever even the slightest lull in the movie, you insert that, your audience is they're staying with you. And that's why you can sort of focus through this thing for 3 hours, because like the human nature is like you're gonna perk up when you see sex, drugs, or violence.
Well, I think it's just I think he was doing it to just push the whole idea of just excess, right? I mean, and
In
just
this world, for
going,
sure.
yeah, and kind of boiling over, to a certain extent. Um, Going into the excess and all that.
I mean, we didn't need the hooker scene in the beginning, did we?
Which
We didn't need
one?
it.
There was.
In the very beginning, there's a hooker scene, the classic hooker scene. There's also
Yeah,
the same hooker scene in The Departed with Jack Nicholson, the same one.
Mm.
I can remember there's just been too many hooker scenes in that movie for me. I feel like the one
Then
where
it's
he talks about the different prices for hookers
No, the
and
one
no,
where
no,
they're
no.
doing drugs.
yeah, she's got her thing up.
There's a fake mountain that he's doing drugs of.
oh
It was the intro,
It's
like
like
oh
before it even starts telling the story. Like,
oh,
yeah.
got it, got it, got it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, did we need that? We didn't need that for the story. Like he
No,
says it like you can buy
that's
prostitutes or whatever.
that's the that gets you.
yeah,
That's what you're
Yeah, it's
talking
the
about.
hook,
I think
right?
that says exactly like, yep, I got your attention. There's more of this. This first one is free.
Tunes, yeah, for
Then you
sure.
gotta.
That's what he does. But you don't need it if he just narrates the idea. Like, hey, we know it, but he's like, I'm going to show it to you because that's the medium, and I need your attention. But we don't
So
have to see it.
yeah.
speaking of like when this was done and all that, and you're talking about them talking about like shooting extra scenes and all that. I
Hmm.
feel like if this if he had made this movie when he was coming out with Goodfellas,
Hmm.
this would have gotten NC-17. I feel like he wouldn't
Ooh,
have been able to bring this movie out there at that
well,
time.
maybe
It's similar when I think of like movies like Scarface, because Scarface was getting NC-17. He had to like 3 times go up to the board basically, and because he brought in cops and all that, Brian De Palma, to say like, hey, we're not. This is not over exaggerating. These are actual cases that are in the newspapers, that the police reports and all that. Like someone did use a chainsaw to cut up a body in a hotel. So
well, then can't
that's
the
a.
same argument have been made for this back then, saying like, well, this did happen.
I guess it could have. I just think the amount of excess was maybe right, because the minute you say fuck, it's rated R, right? Or you can have one fuck in a
One.
PG-13, whatever it is. I just think because yeah, I just think that if this was back then, he would have gotten way too many notes. Also, I feel like, and maybe because he just didn't have. I mean, he had
Clout.
already done Mean Street. I mean, I imagine Scorsese has Final Cut, right? I would imagine he's got
I don't know.
over the studio, maybe. But I
I
just
would
think
imagine just the way his movies are edited, he has to have Final Cut.
if this is 2030, I feel like this is a period. We're going back to like this is a movie of like 80s, early 90s, right? If you think about like his whole trajectory, and then when he actually was arrested, and then when the movie was filmed and when it came out, like it is that very specific chunk of time where it's like we're having more nudity, and it's also a kind of like what women are actresses more willing to do nowadays. What are you gonna, be showing? Kevin Smith always talks about he would talk about how, was it Kevin Smith? It might not be him, but for like nudity in his movies, he would get like porn stars to be in them because they were like had because he was like, if I hired a up and coming actress or someone that's trying to be like a legit actress or whatever, they're really uncomfortable taking their clothes off and all that, which is
with a new
understandable
director.
with a
But if
new
you're
director.
Scorsese, listen, Scorsese's
Right,
going to get
but
anyone to
I'm
take
just
their
saying,
clothes
right?
off. Anyone.
They would have,
Not
they would
me.
have like porn stars in the, because for them it's like, oh, you want me to just take my top off and not actually have to have sex, and be like whatever.
Yeah.
So there's this whole point of time, I guess, in movies that now I think we're transitioning away from just like this excess of nudity in movies, and also I think even there's less and less because I saw plays of like just characters, sex scenes and stuff like that that are occurring in movies, or even
That's
like
interesting.
kissing. The
That might
that
be accurate, man. I feel like that might be true.
they're trying to find different ways of showing the emotional connection, and more and more movie sets now and TV and all that have the I forget the position, intimacy. It's not an intimacy coach, but it's
No, that's
that
right.
be
It's an intimacy director or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't think that was even a thing in the until Me Too, right? That they started incorporating that to like
Which is just a good
anytime.
idea in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a good, it's boundaries, right? It's like we're all adults and all that. So a
I
lot has
think, yeah, I
definitely,
think you would get a better scene if everybody feels
yeah,
safe and comfortable.
yeah. So the yeah, in that sense, it's interesting. And going into that, and since we're going into so many scenes, I will bring up probably my favorite. I don't know if my favorite interaction, but like of the narration and the scene, it's got to be the Lamborghini. It's got to be the him explaining the Quaaludes and the
Hmm.
fact that it's 50-year-old Quaalude or whatever that took long, and then he's like made it in one piece in the Lamborghini or whatever, and then he gets arrested and they show like the actual Lamborghini just completely trashed. And I
What
was
was your
like,
reaction to that scene
I
when you were
well,
watching it?
I was like, there's no way he's driving. And I mean, again, the physicality, the comedy of him like opening the door with his foot, and of course it's a gull wing door, so it's like that weird. It's lifting him, but it's not. It doesn't. It's not hard enough to lift him all the way, but he's too high to like do any of that. It was just really well done from DiCaprio and Scorsese, of just the directing of that, the showing like, wait, he's comatose. Did he make it? Like, cause you're surprised. Like his narration, he was just so proud of himself that he made it, right? And then all
Hmm.
that thing happened, and what's his face was choking, and from salami and all that, and then whoops, he totally trashed the car, and it shows back exactly what happened because we've all been. Well, I don't want to speak with for everyone, but we've all been intoxicated. I would imagine different levels, different substances, maybe. That then you're like, I think I did that pretty good. Like I think I nailed that parking, or I think, and then the next day someone's like, nope, you did not do the
Nope, the
proper
car's
thing.
still in the middle of the street.
Yeah, whether it's a car or just a different interaction.
You
Just
accidentally
don't.
parked in front of someone else, and they
I'm
couldn't
a,
get
I'm
to
a,
work, and they left a
I'm
note
a,
on your car.
I am a great
I
driver,
think I
but
did pretty good.
literally yesterday I went to the grocery store and this old man that is handicapped because he has the handicap sign took the handicap parking and the regular parking. It took 2 pockets. I was like, what?
Oh man.
How did he like park perpendicular, or just like came in and parked on handicap and on regular?
Yeah, that. Yeah, on the handicap and on the regular.
Oh man.
Did you start a fight? Did you were you like, hey amigo, what's
No,
what's
I was
happening?
just like the dude literally got in his car to like get his. He forgot like his money or something. He didn't. He saw the car like it was not well parked. I'm like, yo, this place is full, bro. And you're taking 2 spots? Okay.
All right. Oh yeah. So any favorite scenes or see? I want a different phrase for scenes because that was
I
that
hate
was
to.
I wouldn't necessarily think that was more than what a regular scene for me is, which I think that says something about like Scorsese films
It's a
and the way that
sequence.
he do. Yeah, it's a sequence. Thank you. Because that whole sequence of him trying to figure out to get to a a phone that's outside that might not be wired, getting there, explaining all that, and then making it back is just it was done masterfully. Probably the best one of the movie, I think.
I do love that scene. I love like the journey that scene takes us on. It's it's a moment. Um, there are a couple scenes that really stick out to me, and I hate to sound cliche, but the "I'm not leaving" it's just an amazing scene that everybody's in on in the office. Like
I was so over him at that point. I was so much. You see,
I
at that
love how
point, I was like,
everybody's a douchebag with him in that moment. Right? Like
you
he
know,
raised up all these people who were just generally kind of good people, and he
True.
turned everybody bad. The money turned everybody into him.
even Rob
And
Reiner, his dad, I didn't quite. Rob Reiner's in this movie, like that's wild.
he had
I would say
everybody on board. And then there's the scene where Margot Robbie like she's mad at him and she's taunting him. I thought that was good, a really well executed scene.
And then he still got because he was like, here's a nanny cam right on your
Mm.
that the
Yeah,
our
that scene
security
takes
guard.
the full circle, and like obviously it's a tug and pull between the actors in that scene, and like they're both trying to one up each other.
Yeah,
But it was just a really well executed
he
scene
never
between.
learns though. That yeah. Anyway,
Mm,
I think
someone
that's
else get.
I think the scene where he starts doing business with the pink sheets,
mhm.
and
Okay.
he
Yeah.
starts like going like, what, I'm gonna get how much commission? And he just starts
Yeah,
killing on the phone, and everybody else goes like, what the hell is up with this new guy? And then he starts
great scene.
training people and everything. Like when he starts training people and everything, like I that's when I really got into the movie. And this is
Yeah.
not like a very transitional scene, like it's a very sit down scene, but I really this time I really enjoyed the scene between him and the FBI agents when they're
Hmm.
in the yacht.
Yep.
I really enjoy that scene because it's a play with stakes, you know? Like
Yeah,
it
that's probably
reminded
one of the best acted scenes in the film.
Well, it's the most grounded also, right?
Hmm.
That it just shows exactly who he is. Just I'm and that's why I almost wanted to see more of them because it was almost his equal or someone that like
Hmm.
he couldn't. It reminds me of American Gangster, right?
Hmm.
You got
Hmm.
Denzel and you got Russell Crowe. It reminds me of if you guys think of other good like good cop and mouse type scenario. Oh, I had at least one other one
De
ready.
Niro, Pacino, Heat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say Heat, right? Like that
Hmm.
whole interaction because you don't see them in like they only appear on screen together twice in that in Heat. So yeah, it had the potential of that, which it still did, right? Because that just shows how good of a actor and that you can be that in those small things. The instances he's able to get one over. He's the only one that was able to get into under his skin, basically, right? No one else really was able to accomplish that.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys took all the
It,
good scenes.
We took all the good. It's 3 hours long. There's gotta be more than three scenes in the movie, guys.
So, like, I actually don't think I actually got on record that Jonah Hill is my favorite character on there, and then Leonardo is a strong second.
Mhm.
Because, like, yeah, even though everyone was really powerful, he just did a really good job pretending to be this man and make like it's almost, don't quote me, but but it's almost as good as J Lo did Selena. Like when I think Selena, I think of J Lo. You know what I
I
mean?
would have never, ever had guessed. Don't what? Go on. I love it.
Listen,
I love
I
it
agree.
because
I
I would
can't
have.
think of Selena without thinking of J Lo as well.
I know. I know. I just. I would. I didn't see that one coming a mile
Oh,
away. Go on.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that
I'm
reference, sure.
Yeah. I'm not
random.
disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing. I agree with the reference. I just.
So if I
Also.
hear about
Yeah.
this guy, I think of Leonardo. Like I just do. I'm like, oh, okay, Leonardo's gonna be at that seminar. Cool. But
Funny.
that's how well that was for me. Scene wise, I really like similar to Des. I'm gonna try to think what else I liked besides Yacht and him like coming into who he was going to be with the pink slips. Um, I kind of like the first date with Margot.
Uh,
How she was just like, we're not gonna be friends. Like I just felt like she was like so smooth in that. Like
Yeah.
I'm like Mistress 3.0. Like she really like she was like really good at like not being, I know it's totally unrealistic, like, she was sleeping with a married man, but, like, she just did a really good job of making you feel like she was doing nothing wrong, like,
She
her
was
whole,
controlling the moment.
yeah,
yeah.
she really did well with that, I still I infidelity is weird for me, like, I still haven't forgiven Alicia Keys, but, like
That's such a funny fidelity is weird. Like, yeah, it should be. It should be.
So, like, even, like, Lifetime movies where, like, they fall for the office guy because their boyfriend's a douche, I'm like, "Maybe break up first, and
Yeah.
then" like, I don't know, that's still your boyfriend, but, yeah, but I do love that she kinda put a twist on being a mistress and was more in control, um, and then I do like the scene where Jonah Hill got him to do crack, like, I just thought it was so random. I was like, "Wow, what a friendship." I just love their friendship in general, just even, like, he quit his job and believed in him so quickly, like, their anytime they had an interaction was probably some of my favorite scenes.
So if I'm going to piggyback like everybody else has, I'm going to do a combination between Steve and Marina. Steve talked about the pink sheet scene, and that is the scene. I remember when I first saw the movie where I was all in because it's like I'm learning something, I'm being educated and enlightened at the same time, and I'm learning how this scam sort of works. But also, that was sort of the moment, like Marina said, where this is sort of like a rags to riches stories, and you start to see where this is all about to come together. And I mean, I also am a big fan of like the down and out nobody sort of getting to watch him grow into like this monster, this big giant, thing that he ascends into, and like all that was kind of like in play in that moment where you're like, okay, now I see where this thing is about to go. So yeah, that was I think that was kind of like an important thing as well. I don't know why I just told you guys that, but I feel like that was important to mention.
I feel
Nice.
you. It's a very, like, palms are sweaty moment, like,
Hmm.
you're just like, "Oh, shoot," like, he just changed the game. This place has been operating
Hmm.
for probably years now, doing the same thing. People probably averaging about like 1,200 a month, thinking that they're doing something big with this 50% commission. And his first phone call, he got someone to pay 4 grand. Like it was great. It kind of remind it. I think I also identified with it because I grew up Jehovah's Witness. I don't know if I've ever told you guys that. And we had to like knock on doors and preach. And like when you finally felt like you had like a groove of like someone not slamming the door in your face, like you had
Hmm.
to find like a way to like be like, hey, I'm a stranger and I want to talk to you about the Bible, but like don't want them to close the door in your face. And so when
Hmm.
he did that, he reminded me of like this meeting we'd have once a week to learn to talk to people. And I was
Hmm.
just like, so it just reminded me he was taking all those
Mm.
from it, like, how to speak to them, make them feel comfortable, and make them feel like they're making the decision and stuff like that. I grew up in a cult, whatever, but but it just reminded me
I
of
mean,
that.
all I can see now is you and whoever was, and because you said Colt, in that garage and
Talking about the Holy
the
Christ, yeah.
Bible in the way he was talking about the pink slips and all that,
Yeah.
and then you guys going into this crazy Jesus is my drug
Now
uh
you're getting baptized. Boom.
fueled rage knocking on people's doors and
Only
closing
as
the
a
deal.
side note, only as a side note, there was these two Jehovah Witness guys that used to come to my parents' house, and I was here one time when they came, and I just entertained them just because I thought it would be fun or whatever. We had a nice little conversation on the porch. It was real pleasant. And then once I started disagreeing with them a little bit, like the one disagreement we had out of this like 20-minute conversation, they jetted out of there. And I was like, oh, guess I'll never see them again. And then they would come over like once a week for probably 2 years.
Wow.
They never converted me, obviously, but they would come over. I would talk to them sometimes, and eventually, like, I'm busy. You guys got to get out of here. And they would like, okay, Mr. Jason, goodbye. And they even after like I didn't like live with my parents and I was gone, like, and I wasn't coming back for a while. My parents like, why are these Jehovah Witness people still coming here looking for you?
Was it the same ones, Jason, or was it just
Same two
the?
guys. It was two guys who would always come over. I guess, and I don't even think they were stopping at other house in the neighborhood. They was like, well, I think we can just if we lay into this guy, I think we almost got him.
Off of this, I can discuss exactly what was going on there, but
Oh,
I just
oh, I was like, yeah, go on.
don't want to take up too much of this. Let's get back to my favorite con man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna jump into final thoughts unless anyone has anything else. But I'll start it this time because
Okay.
I'll talk too much. What I want to say in final thoughts again, I did really enjoy the movie. I probably will watch this again at some point. I also would love to kind of see what a cable cut of this is because like
Oh
with all
wow.
the cutscene and every, how do you edit around that? Is it like an hour long? Because there's some great edits of kind of like Scarface being the one, or even like Sopranos on basic cable is really weird. But yeah, so I would love to see that. The one thing again, right? Women are strong. There's that one blonde. I forget her character. There's like one blonde lady that's kind of one of the boys
Hmm.
that
I
I
liked her a
thought we
lot.
were gonna. Yeah, I thought we were gonna. That's another character that I'm like,
She was the
because at the
mom,
end,
right?
yeah, because at the end when they like bust in, she kind of is one of the ones that's fighting back, and she's like, "It's Chanel," or I don't know what she says,
Yeah.
right? But she gets like manhandled, and so like that's someone I would have liked to see, just because it's a different perspective, right? And it
Hmm.
isn't like women need this. Like no, we all know women need like they're independent, strong women and all that. So it's not for like that. It's just like I want to see, again, we've seen. I guess you have. I didn't realize. I mean, I guess I did, but I didn't realize there were all these levels of prostitutes, right? Different tiers,
Hmm.
and then you have someone like Margot Robbie's character, right? That's like mistress, then wife, kind of equal, and then it's like, and we see all the scummy guys, and it's like, what does that woman that's there look
Hmm.
like, right? Because the other women that we talk about is the one that they all slept with, and then the one guy married, and then the married guy, the guy ended up committing suicide. So it's like, all right, so we're like, let's, and maybe for me that would have made this just even better because if it was 3 hours long, and we had, and of the 3 hours maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes was looking into what a woman in that scenario that's kind of there and can run with the boys, if you will, or
You
one
didn't
of
feel
the
like that
boys.
one lady was that?
I wanted more, and I mean, and that's a good thing of again how well the character, how well
Hmm.
it was acted, but it's just something I would have wished to like. Okay, she's married and has kids. So maybe it would have been fun to have, and again, maybe this is from my improv and sketch kind of mind where it's like, let's tag and now like see her and how she
Hmm.
deals with her husband, right? And so
That's
maybe that's
interesting.
where my mind is going, or the mapping scenes, right? Because there was a lot of callbacks also a little bit in the movie and stuff like that. So I would have maybe liked to have seen her dealing with guys or the new guys that would come into the company. Did they think she was one of just the regular secretaries or whoever that was about to give a blowjob or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
That's but great movie, great directed, acting phenomenal. The real guy is just a tremendous, horrible human being, from what I understand. So it is one of those things, but yeah, it's really well done movie. But I would like if I would have gotten a little bit more of her, like I think it would have made the 3 hours even much better. So that's my final thought.
Cool.
Uh, Steve, your final thought, and
Alrighty,
if there's something, yeah.
let me hit you with the numbers first. So this movie cost $100 million to make,
Hmm.
and it grossed 392 million dollars.
Good job.
Yes. And after Belfort got out of prison, he transitioned into legitimate investments, including startups, real estate, cryptocurrency, and NFTs. I don't know how how legitimate all those are,
I
but
know.
just a tidbit of information that I found
He
online.
probably made the Sheba,
Is,
whatever.
is he the one? Is he the one who wrote that in? Does it say the author? Is that a Wikipedia that it's like Belfort went clean into legitimate businesses? Anyway,
Basically.
go.
But final thought, yeah, this movie does have things that are for some people very unappealing and for some people very appealing. But that is kind of in a nutshell like the definition of like hardcore male American greed, and that's kind of what this movie is in a package, and
Yep.
it's exploring kind of the rags to riches story. And like once you get to a certain point, because if it's a different person, they'll be doing different things, I would assume. But you basically see that not much behavior changes, and especially if you start something with just that, which is greed. You're not even thinking about your customers, you're just thinking about yourself. And that's where you get, the drug abuse with the whole like going through prostitutions and stuff like that, and doing all this crazy stuff that is just like, can you be doing anything more productive with your time? But
Hmm.
also, just like Jason mentioned, this movie is representative of the 80s, and that's something people have to take into account. Because even me watching the movie, sure, there are things like certain clothing styles, maybe how the hair was, the Lamborghini, or stuff like that would be representative of the time. But still, looking at the movie, it does look more modern. I guess like more late 90s or early 2000s, if anything. So you have to take
Hmm.
into account that this movie is from the 80s, and this is way before smartphones, way before all these advancements in computer and technology that we have today. So a movie like this in today's age will be completely different.
Hmm.
But I did enjoy the movie for what it is. I'm not as, I guess, as big as I was with this movie in the past. Because I guess before, like I mentioned in my first impressions, and I'll re-mention in my final thoughts, like I watched it very young, very horny. So I watched it mainly, I guess, for that. And now it's more like, yeah, it's an interesting watch, but I definitely like to watch this movie again. It's probably gonna take me a few years to be honest with you, because just like Dino, it is a long movie, and I don't know how many like 3 hour let me sit this through I have. But I would definitely recommend it to people that are into stock market, that are into just trying to see a perspective. 'Cause it's just a perspective of like what could happen, if you go a little bit off the rails, if you
Hmm,
get too much money and go off the rails and stuff like that. And yeah, but besides that, it's a very interesting movie. It's incredible performances. There's a lot of good acting here. So definitely also for actors is a great study piece
for sure.
for people that want to study different choices and different things like that because there's a lot of different choices in this movie. And yeah, that's my final thoughts.
And real quick, it is the movie's early '90s. It's not '70s, '80s. It would be late '80s, early '90s, and then into 2000, early 2000s. So that's
Oh,
why
okay.
when you're thinking that it's because yeah.
Okay.
All right, we got Jason. Are you the last one, Jason?
I guess so.
Or, yep.
Um,
And
yeah. Hmm. What?
no, I was just the craziest thing to me that I've noticed more in movies is just telephones. Kind of like you said, the smartphone. Just there used to be a telephone everywhere.
Yeah,
And how many telephone lines they needed, and like in the tiny little. Anyway, that's the big thing that I'm noticing more and more as I'm watching
He
movies. Is
left.
just
Yeah, he left his house to go to like a hotel thing to get a payphone. Yeah.
yeah. They're all sitting in a line in the office making their cold calls and whatnot. And I don't. I mean, I haven't been in an office like that in a long time, but I don't imagine people are doing it like that anymore. You don't all have to just sit at your desk cold calling for hours. Um, so I would watch this thing again, for tons of reasons. I would watch it as a character study. I will watch it to see the great acting. I will watch it to see the great directing. The way this thing is cut is pretty awesome as well. The script is something to sort of like, watch and sort of, I don't want to say marvel at. I mean, but yeah, marvel at. There's a lot to like about this thing. Like this thing is done well on every section, every sector of what it takes to make a really good movie. This is I think this is a career performance for DiCaprio. I think this is within his top five, probably. And what I was really surprised about when I watched this thing and watched it again and again is how great the supporting cast is. It's like nobody showed up without their homework being done. I mean, and I was just really surprised with. I mean, people were going to bring it for a Scorsese flick, but like I was just so surprised. Like all these actors that I just didn't think had that kind of range and that kind of depth, they just like they did their thing. So that's cool. Who would I recommend this to? And I would recommend it, but like Steve said, I would be very cautious in who I recommended it to. I wouldn't recommend it to any church groups or anything like that. There's a lot of cuss words in this thing. I would recommend this to anyone who wants to make movies that's not, I hate to use this word, but not prudish. If they're not prudish about what they watch and what they take in. I know some people off the top of my head. I'm like, I couldn't recommend this movie to them because they're not going to like the subject matter or how it's presented. I also like that this movie is sort of a parable. Like any good movie, when it shows, sort of a villain's rise to the top. I mean, usually like the villain has like a turning point in the movie sometimes if they don't get killed off or they turn into the good guy. Well, this is very much the good guy, or the seemingly good guy, innocent guy turns into the bad guy, but then he gets his just dessert. So to that extent, it's a pretty good parable film. So that's another reason I would recommend it. Um, Yeah, I think that's all I got to say about it. I think that you guys covered this pretty well. I wouldn't say anything new, but yeah, yeah, I would give this thing holds up pretty well in my book. I think it's a top 3 to 5 career best for Scorsese and DiCaprio.
really, I wouldn't.
Hmm.
For DiCaprio, yeah, I feel like Scorsese has top three. No, maybe top five, but not top three.
Yeah, maybe not top 3, maybe not, but I would say this is a part of his like. If there was a top 5 collection box set, I think this is in it.
I mean, if there's a collection box set, you know there's going to be in it because not only is it DiCaprio, but it has Margot Robbie, right? Which
Well, just for the just for funsies, give me three Scorsese films you think are better. Like if there was just a three box set, what would it be in there?
I think Taxi Driver would be there. Probably Mean
Hmm.
Streets because that's his, what got him known basically, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, and Goodfellas.
Fair.
And I mean that's clearly pre 80s, right? All those three are pre 80s. I think so.
Yes. No. Yes. Yes.
Goodfellas? No, Goodfellas came out in the 80s, I think, right?
That was 90.
Oh, 90. Never mind. Yeah, so okay. Yeah. So that's clearly his earlier
Did you say Raging
catalog.
Bull?
No, I didn't say Raging Bull. Did you say Raging Bull? Is that your top 3?
No, I was just making sure. So yours was Taxi, Mean Street,
Goodfellas
and
and
Goodfellas.
Good,
Yeah, that's fair.
which is
I
kind of
would
all
throw.
one. It's all one genre, which might not be the best. But what would
I
you
would pull
be?
men. I would pull Mean Streets out and put in Taxi Driver. I
No,
mean
you put it
Raging
on
Bull.
one.
I'm sorry, Raging
Okay.
Bull. I would take out Mean Street and put in Raging Bull.
Okay. Yeah. So, but the fact that Margot Robbie blew up, right? I feel like if Margot Robbie didn't blow up and was just, regular actress, uh, I, yeah, but now clearly because Margot is huge, Jonah Hill, all these other actors have gone on to be so big in their own right that this definitely is in a box set for sure, and probably The Departed. I feel like his career, he's done a great job of kind of evolving with the times as a director and kind of knowing what audiences are wanting. That you got something like Gangs of New York, which then you have The Departed. So films that seem to be way more popcorny. If I don't know if that's a good way to describe Scorsese. I feel a little dirty saying it's popcorny movie, but maybe
So
because
definitely top five.
yeah. Oh, I
Okay,
would put it maybe five, maybe five. I would put it
maybe
may
five.
it'd be on the cusp. It'd be like crescent moon or whatever the astrology people like to say. It's cusping on the 5 and 6. Anyone else want to try and throw in a top 3 box set collection, Scorsese, or is it just Jason and I that are into this kind of nerdy?
No, but Marin, did you say your final thoughts?
I didn't.
Oh no, we just jumped
I
in.
would just go with the flow. Thank you. um, yeah, but ironically enough, it's gonna be kind of hard going after Jason because I feel like I haven't really changed. I still love the movie. um, yeah, hearing all your guys' thoughts though, it did open up my eyes a little bit more to like how there might have been some stuff that wasn't completely accurate about the movie, but I still love it. I'm sorry. it's still
Hey, that's great.
it's
Great.
still it's a movie that gives you hope that you can find a way to make it up to the top, no matter where you're from or where you come from. But yeah, no, it was really good. I would recommend it to people. I think a lot of people, probably due to the pandemic, got more into learning how to trade and things. So I feel like that kind of opens up who may have not watched it before. I'd recommend it to people that are just like more into things like that now, um, and then also to people who do like the rags to
Quaaludes.
riches.
Oh, got it. Okay, not
Um,
Quaaludes.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. Like I said, I get super offended really easily, and I didn't mind all the drugs and stuff. Like I did
Would
in
you
my
recommend it to the JW?
I would not recommend
Okay.
it to them. And then also just to note my another final thought, I need to remember to say little people instead of the M word. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And
I was.
also we might need to say, and we might, I don't know, but I think instead of saying prostitute or hookers, we probably should have been saying sex workers.
Okay. Yeah.
Not ladies of the night. I was gonna point it out when you did say that, Marina, but I went so quickly. But yeah, I think we're all kind of in that area of trying to be
Hey, we're
respectful of.
doing our best, everybody.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't
100.
said any word in a long time that I was just like, yeah, that's the last thing I remember saying.
Listen, whoever got to that part already left their comment, so it's all good.
Come back.
Propaganda. Yeah.
Fast forward to 1 minute and 14, 1 hour and 14 minutes.
But it's good, you know, because then you can watch all the way through as you should, and we did talk about it, and you know, hopefully don't burn us. All right, anything else?
I was just gonna say, as far as the box set goes, yeah, I'm not as big as a fan. I'm looking through his stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, you guys got it.
All right, well, I think that is it for the Wolf of Wall Street on Oye Dimelo Cinema Club. Hey, Jason, you got any questions?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask, Dino. I do have a question for Steve. What do you got for us next week, Steve?
Next week, I don't know why you asked me because it is not my turn. Of course, it is not Dino's turn because he just went. It is, for the first time ever, Marina's turn!
Yay!
Yay! So, do I just answer?
Yeah, you can answer, you can set it up, however you want to do it.
Oh, yeah. So, as my girl Julia Fox said when she was describing being a muse to Kanye West, we're going to be watching Uncut Gems.
Oh, nice.
Hilarious. Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
So there you go.
Okay, that's a bad word movie.
That's definitely, I don't know. I never seen it, so I'm looking forward to it.
How about you, Dino? Have you seen this one?
I haven't. I actually had either or. I was like, I'm gonna do Wolf of Wall Street or Uncut Gems. So we're
and she was gonna do either or.
Yeah.
Have you seen this one, Marina?
So I think it's on Netflix, and I started it the first 15 minutes, and I was like, no, but I feel like her.
Now you're forced back in.
I feel like she kind of hyped it up because I was like, what is she talking about? I'm like, oh, that's that movie. So I'm excited to watch it again.
Uncut Gems.
With you guys.
All right, awesome.
So there you go for El Don Dino, Marina, David Echols, and me, Steve TV. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm JP Cerno, and welcome. Hi, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Hi, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Fucking shit. Okay. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Right? Jesus Christ. And I just, as soon as it's the third one, because this is the third one, right? I am JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Oye Dimelo. Super cut of every time I fuck it up. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo Network. And click here for additional videos, and don't forget to subscribe. The lonely singles in your neighborhood already did.